Get you some of that. I'm gonna show you how to make this little incense ball. Light it on the bottom. Heat rises, right? So, start out with some sage here. This is a long stem prairie sage from South Dakota. And I just take my scissors and I chop it up until, oops, hi there. Got some little friends here want to come hang out. There we go. Chop up the sage until it looks like that. These are little marbles that were naturally made by pieces of natural marble getting caught in a kettle in the stream and swirling around until they became perfect little balls. So I get a little bit of sage and some copal. This is white copal. I use any kind of resin incense. Oh. My favorite is the Ecuadorian copal. There we go. Get it ground up into a nice powder. I got a little spoon here that I made out of leather. And I don't know how much that is. I don't have an exact ratio worked out. Isopropyl alcohol, this is 91%. Hardly anything in there except alcohol, and it evaporates. Well, I'll tell you a little story. Long time ago, I don't want to tell you how long because we're getting old now. I met a guy named 7, like the number. And he was a sage picker. I met him in Atlanta. But he was a sage picker that would travel out west, collect a bunch of sage, and then bring it back and tie it into wands and different things like that. The guy would take the strings and tie them to his toes and have all the strings laid out like that and pull them tight with his teeth and make a wand out of sage. He made these. And he just goes whip, 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 whip with the string pulled tight with his toes, and he cranks something out like that in a couple minutes. But he also would go and collect pinon from the pinon trees in Arizona. And he would take these big blocks of sap and put them up in a little cave up in the arroyos of the desert. And then he would wait 7 years. And then he would fly back out there or bus and go and harvest or collect his pinon from his secret spot, because it took that long for it to dry out and crystallize in the natural Arizona weather and the shade of the little nook that he had stuck it in. I was very impressed with Seven, the sage picker. I named him the sage picker. He just introduced himself as Seven. But one time he was talking about how he would like to figure out how to combine sage and sweetgrass. See, that thing just burned all the way through all by itself. How he would like to combine the resin with the sage in a way to make an incense that would burn on its own and entirely. And 20 years later, I figured it out. Oops, I dated myself. Sorry, Seven. We're old now, but we just can't keep this to ourselves, man. We gotta share it with the world. This video is dedicated to Seven, the sage picker, because he inspired this idea a long time ago, and I finally figured it out. The alcohol melts, or melt? I don't know. It turns the resin into a liquid that you can then cram, and I wring it out as I do it. But now that's a hard little ball of sage and resin. I even took some cedar, flat cedar, and I ran that through a coffee grinder, and I made a cedar powder. So now there's cedar in there. So right now we got sage, cedar, and white copal. I've always been told that the white copal is, its sacred use is that it's like sage. It's a cleanser, like sage is, a protector, but times 10. So, you know, if you need to smudge, burn some sage every day, because you do need to smudge. I don't care who you are, but especially if you're an American. Hey, anyway, if you really need to smudge, Copal. It's like sage times 10. And I just make these little balls like this, and then the alcohol evaporates, and you're left with a nice tightly packed little incense ball like that. And you gotta have some kind of, this is a sewing needle that I bent. I used my little torch and I bent it and I set it in this coconut shell, and there you go. Much love to Seven, the sage picker, wherever you are out there on your journeys. Continue the legacy. And also, here's your idea, man. Here's your idea. I figured it out. You could probably form these things into cones or coat sticks like an incense stick, but sage, cedar, copal, and it burns great. Sometimes you gotta light it twice. Everybody, get you some of that. You gotta kind of wave towards the screen of your phone and get you some of that. Smudge yourself, will you? Jeez.